Agriculture Council, the longest standing Native American agriculture organization in the United States. Ducheneaux has been with the council since the 1990s in various leadership positions, including as former tribal council representative for the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. He has spent his career educating people about the critical role of improved food systems, value-added agriculture, and foreign exports to respond to the enduring economic and social challenges Native Americans and reservations face. Please welcome Mr. Zach Ducheneaux.
Thank you all. And what an honor. Thank you to the Intertribal Agriculture Council, Carrie Jo, President Bulio, all of the tribal nations that the IAC represents that have stayed behind the organization for so many years to allow us to be able to get together here. You know, my bio says that I spent some of my career educating people. I spent a very good portion of my career learning from those that had blazed the trail before me. The two ladies that you got a chance to listen to this morning, Sarah Vogel, Janie Hip, I literally learned the things that I know from them as a 20-something-year-old farm advocate working for the IAC. President Bulio has been trying to teach me for decades now. Ross Racine, Greg Smitman, and countless producers across the country have helped inform my philosophy around what the Farm Service Agency should be doing and what we could be doing if we would get out of our own way. So thank you all. I appreciate it. And my hat is off to those that came before me. I'm a child of that farm financial crisis that Sarah talked about. I grew up in the 1980s. Those were my formative years. And I watched my old man, helped him one day sort through a tire pile to find the best, worst tire we had on the place. To put a new tire on the pickup, so we could go to town and beg the local grocery store guy to take Dad at his word that he would pay him back if he would help him feed his family of 7. So I understand where our producers are coming from when they're in this position. And I'm going to do my level best to leave the Farm Service Agency better than it was when I found it and start to infuse it with these philosophies that can help us avoid all of that. Last year, about this time, we had our first ever fully virtual event. Carrie, I'm gonna set your phone right there. And I was sitting in my living room, sorting through the email, trying to get my thoughts down about the event because I was really moved. It was really a sensational event. We had nearly 1,000 folks engaged, and I was in my dream job. I had my dream job. I finally was able to bring everything that I thought I knew to bear, leading the Intertribal Ag Council, an organization that I still have a lot of fondness and love for, as well as all of the staff. And I get an email from the Biden-Harris transition team. It says, someone has given us your name as an individual that might be interested in serving with the Biden-Harris administration. And I thought, well, dang you, Janie. I don't know that it was Janie Hip, but I suspect. And if she's listening, she can either confirm or deny that when I get to see her in person next week. But as I sat there and I reflected, I thought, you know, I would be doing a tremendous disservice to all of those folks that I've been learning for if I didn't put up or shut up. So I decided absolutely. But I made sure that the administration knew where I was coming from because I truly believe our ag finance system is fundamentally flawed in this country. And until we fix that, we're going to continue to see farmers getting foreclosed on. We're going to continue to see poverty in our rural communities. And we're going to continue to see our rural communities evaporate into thin air and more corporate ag interests take over the means of production. So I wrote that in my letter of interest, and I'll be darned if they didn't interview me and offer me the position of the administrator of the Farm Service Agency. And I could not, thank you. Hold your applause for 3 years because I got a lot of work to do and you guys need to help me hold my feet to the fire. So I took the job, knowing that I would have to leave home, knowing that I would have to leave the organization that I've come to know and love, but knowing that there was a tremendous opportunity to bring a philosophy to bear in amongst the bureaucracy that is there to serve us. One of my daughter Kelsey's friends said, wow, it's so cool that your dad got that opportunity. It'll be great to have someone that's got BS on the outside of their boots too over there. And I do. I was literally preg checking cows last weekend for an uncle. But that's what I hope to accomplish while I'm here is to infuse the agency with a new philosophy. And it's prophetic that I get a chance to talk after Sarah Vogel, after she talks about her book, because that's the first paper book I've read cover to cover in 20 years. And I highly recommend it to everybody here. I'll loan you my copy so that I'm not getting in trouble for recommending purchases of a friend's book. But you're going to have to pass it around a lot. But if you don't get Sarah's book yourself, you're not going to be able to get her to autograph it. But the lesson that I took from that book was if the FSA simply would have done what it could have done, and frankly, what it should have done and was required by law to do, we wouldn't have had the farm financial crisis of the 80s. We could have avoided a lot of that. The behavior that the Farmers Home Administration, now the FSA, engaged in at that time sort of set an example for other lending entities. And you see the FSA has been sued by white farmers, black farmers, American Indian farmers, Hispanics, women. But there's another segment of the lending industry that got off scot-free in all of those lawsuits. They're now the Farm Credit Services. And if my friend Gary Matson's here, we know we've got some work to do there as well. Because the way we lend to agriculture is not going to change anything. We're still doing the same loan practices that we did to our grandfathers. And we need to hearken back to a time that's recalled in Sarah's book and in one of the graphics she had up here. Prior to the farm financial crisis that was created under the Reagan administration, there were 240,000 direct loan borrowers at the Farmers Home Administration. Now between our direct and our guaranteed portfolio, we have less than 150,000. So we had a lot more resources out there in play in our communities. And our foreclosure rate prior to the Reagan administration was minute. But our Farm Service Agency officers had the opportunity to serve as a confidant, a counselor, a friend to those producers and guide them through tough times, exercising the flexibility that was in the programs. We still have a lot of flexibility in our programs that we don't exercise. One of the things that makes me very proud to add Secretary Vilsack as the next great leader that I got to work for is that he's encouraging us to find that flexibility in all of our programs. He said, why aren't we doing this before? And the truth is he might not have had a FSA administrator with cow shit on his boots. Now we do. And I have in the last year sat at a kitchen table with a producer talking about their finances, trying to find solutions within what the Farm Service Agency, the lending industry, and CDFIs will do. So to my friend from the Wind River Reservation, I might have gave you a card this morning over coffee. If I didn't, get a card from me. Let's talk, because that's what we want to get past. We don't want to have our people standing up here saying, I'm still getting discriminated against. I know what happens every day. Sometimes it is outright discrimination. And other times it's like that telephone game you learned in kindergarten, where someone read the rules at one point in time and they just told the next person what the rules are. And that person told the next and the next. Now we're 6 generations removed from the real story. And that person just doesn't know any better. It's not necessarily always with bad intentions, but regardless what the reason is, we need to get at it and help our staff understand that the perception of producers like that gentleman, like these folks over here, that's their reality. And we have to make sure that we're managing our delivery of our services, understanding where those producers are coming from, so that we can change their perception and rebuild trust between our producers and the federal government. We're at an opportune time. Janie Hipp is the top lawyer in the Department of Agriculture. That's not just FSA, that's risk management, that's APHIS, that's rural development. Janie is giving legal advice on all of those different portfolios to the secretary. We also have the benefit of having a living, breathing Native woman leading the Department of Interior for the first time. If that ain't worth a hoop and a holler, I don't know what is. That is a fantastic deal. We've got Heather Dawn Thompson leading the Office of Tribal Relations in the USDA, giving advice on issues that matter to our tribal governments and to our tribal producers. So if the 3 of us can't get our heads together over there and craft some solutions that are going to work for Indian country, there's a next generation out here in this audience that can do it, because 25 years ago, I was sitting way in the back as a farm advocate, hoping Greg Smitman was going to be able to find some more money to keep me on board, because I really liked what I was doing and I was getting a chance to learn from the likes of Luann Kling, Betty Puckett, Sarah Vogel, Lynn Hayes, Randy Roth, the folks at Flag, all that were fierce warriors in this fight for equal access to credit for our farmers and ranchers. We're still engaged in that fight, but now you have a team member at the top of the damn thing. I freely give out my email and phone number everywhere I go, against the advice of some of my staff, but I want you to know you can reach out to me. And I will personally email you back. It might not be the answer you want, but it's going to damn sure be honest. And it's going to be after trying to find a way to do what we could and should be doing. Now, we've got a body of law that we have to work within, and we can't step outside of that. That's our statutory guidance. Just under that statutory guidance, we've got regulatory guidance where the secretary has been given discretion to administer these programs. Below that, we've got handbooks and manuals where the FSA administrator and the deputy administrator of farm loan programs and farm programs can actually write the rules. Those we can change. We need to know when things aren't working. I want to know when things aren't working in your community, because we will take a look at those guiding documents and see if there's a way we can change it and institutionalize the philosophical change that's so desperately needed within the Department of Agriculture. I want to leave plenty of time for questions, because I'm sure there's a lot, and I'm purposefully leaving out a lot of the stuff that I know we're going to get questions about, so we can talk about it. But all of you that are a farmer or rancher or producer or grower in your community, we have opportunities for you to enlist and join us in the fight at the local policy level. We have county committee elections every year, and that's the front line of decision-making for the Farm Service Agency. We don't have enough diverse representation on there, so please take a look, keep your eye out in that bulletin for that next nomination period if you haven't already been nominated, and join us at that local level at the fight. For those of you that want to step into a little deeper water, we've got state committee appointments that we're continuing to roll out as we vet applications. That's a more intensive process because it's literally the government selecting you. The county committees, your producers, your fellow producers will elect you to serve and represent them. The state committee structure, The secretary is going to appoint you. There's a vetting process involved. Don't be scared of it. If your resume only says farmer, we know what that means and we want you on our team. So get that resume submitted to me, submitted to our good team here in the middle table. Our outreach division is here. We've got a county executive director over here somewhere. Drop them a resume, send it to me, send it to them. We want you on the team to help. My email is Zach, Z-A-C-H .Ducheneaux, spelled correctly, D-U-C-H-E-N-E-A-U-X @USDA.gov. And I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you about the things that are working that we need to build on, the things that aren't, that we could throw out and maybe start over and doing it better. And what solutions you might have that we never even thought about. Because if I had all the solutions, we wouldn't need to have a meeting. We'd all just be out doing what we talk about. So with that, I want to give the time back to the people here and see if there are any questions. Kier's got a microphone and I will do my level best to answer them. Mr. Roman, how you doing? Or Joe, my buddy Joe.
Thank you, Zach.
Good to see you.
How far are we on the debt relief? How are they going to get through it or anything? Do you have an update?
Yeah, I can give you an update on that. So in March, Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act. And in that act was contemplated loan payments on behalf of socially disadvantaged producers who had qualifying loans, which were the Farm Service Agency Direct and guaranteed loans. We went to work as soon as that passed, trying to get money out the door to start making these payments. Within a week, we started to get sued. And we ended up with about 13 lawsuits. Where we're at right now with respect to the American Rescue Plan Act is we have preliminary injunctions on us in 3 different jurisdictions. So we can't make payments without being in contempt of court and risking what my dad used to call striped sunlight. So we're at a standstill on making those payments. Congress on the House side just passed the Build Back Better Act. In the Build Back Better Act is a race neutral amendment to Section 1005 of the American Rescue Plan Act. That will make, if passed as the House passed it, now that's got to go from the House to the Senate. The Senate does their thing. If it's the same, the president can sign it. If the Senate makes changes, the House has to resolve it, and then that can go to the Senate, the president. But if that passes as it was passed by the House, all people that are in our direct loan portfolio would receive a loan payment of some amount to be determined by the Congress. And folks that are economically distressed, which is defined in several ways, and I'm not going to try to list all of them, but I'll touch on the relevant one here. If you're operating in or on Indian land, you qualify as economically distressed, you would receive up to 100% payment of your direct loans only that were in place as of whatever time Congress sets. So I hope that answers your question. I'd rather give you a better answer, but that's all I can give you right now.
We're getting some online questions as well, so we might.
Sure,
Some
if
of
I got
those
time.
in, Zach. So with the incredibly tough year we have endured, can we expect natural resources disaster programs coming from FSA?
Yes. We have a slate of conservation-based programs. The Emergency Conservation Program is one. Emergency Assistance for Livestock, Honeybees, and Farm-Raised Fish, which we call ELAP for some reason. And in those are our 2 primary programs. We've also got the Livestock Forage Program, which will help producers replace forage that they may have lost due to drought. We've got the wildlife habitats and, nope, that's Carrie's old shop. Wildfire, hurricanes, and something else program, WIP Plus, we call that. That will help producers mitigate the impacts of the drought or the wildfire or the hurricanes. And we're looking for flexibility in those programs. So some flexibility that we have recently found in that, in the ELAP program, we can help producers who are affected by a drought haul feed to their cows. Some of you may already be aware of this, may have already turned in an application. Under our emergency conservation program, a flexibility we found was allowing producers to put a solar well pump out there to move water to a remote location in their pasture so that they can distribute the grazing. We continue to try to look under every stone to find flexibility that we can add. And Congress recently appropriated $10 billion, 750 million of which will go to the livestock industry for support in that regard. Now, there's a lot of conservation programs here that are authorized by Congress. We'll share that responsibility with our friends at the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And I think you got Chief Cosby on tomorrow. They're getting billions and billions of conservation dollars based on the administration's Climate Smart Ag initiatives. That's one of the initiatives the administration is really highlighting. The other is local and regional food system resilience. Another is pandemic recovery, and another is equity. Now, if that doesn't sound exactly like what President Bulio and Kerry articulated as the Indian way of doing things, I don't know what does. So there's a lot more help coming.
Thank you so much, Zach.
Got one way in the back. Okay, good.
Hi, Zach, it's Spring. I have a quick fiscal housekeeping question.
Sure.
Do we assume that we need to continue to make our FSA loan payments in lieu of
Fantastic
the debt
question.
relief program until it is distributed for 2022?
That's a great question. And our official guidance on our website lets producers know they're under no obligation to make that payment if they think they are going to get an ARPA payment or a BBBA payment. However, there are statutes that may create unforeseen adverse impacts for producers that just choose not to make the payment. Because of that, we have created tools for our producers. You can go in and request a COVID disaster set aside and say, I'm feeling the effects of COVID on my business. I'm uncertain about how my production is going to happen next year. I would like to set aside this year's payment. Our primary loan servicing tools are the best tool we have in the toolbox, and we don't use them near often enough, and we don't use them near forward thinking enough. Come in, talk with your local loan official. Let's get you a COVID disaster set aside. Let's get you into primary loan servicing if you have a direct loan. And if you have a guaranteed loan, unfortunately, the Build Back Better Act plan, or Build Back Better Act, doesn't contemplate direct assistance to guaranteed borrowers. But we are pushing the message out to our lenders that we hope they will offer the flexibility that we will extend them to their borrowers in order to get through all of this. Thanks for the question, Spring.
Zach, we have another one from on. Why did the FSA leave out other native borrowers that were not FSA borrowers? And what can we do as non-FSA borrowers? Do you have advice?
Yes, I do have advice. Come see your local loan officer, see if you qualify for an FSA loan. We are offering loans at 1.75% and 2.85% last month. I haven't checked the December numbers, but they're going to be right about there. There is no better deal than Farm Service Agency financing. So if you don't already have an FSA loan, get in the door. We can only administer the programs that Congress authorizes us to administer within those boundaries, and Congress didn't give us the authority to make payments for any producers that didn't have direct or guaranteed loans in ARPA. And so far in the Build Back Better Act, we've only got authority being contemplated to make payments for those with direct loans.
Thank you.
You bet.
More questions?
Oh,
While we're on the topic, for non-FSA loan holders, don't forget about your CDFIs. So the Native American Agriculture Fund gives out grants to Native CDFIs, millions of dollars annually, and they have to spend that on Native producers. So if you're in a pickle in your current lending institution, contact your Native CDFI. Some of them serve nationally.
very good point. And I know we've got at least one CDFI in the house here, so right over here. And she's got a booth in there to take your applications. Here, while you walk to the next question, I want to just highlight something. One of the things that we still run into today all across the country, and it's a function of several different circumstances, but our producers will get told, well, I don't think you qualify, don't apply. We want you all to apply. If you think that you can make a case for selling masks with an FSA loan, apply. Do not be deterred from submitting an application, because if you are not building a record of denial, for one, you don't have any due process rights to appeal and get Sarah or Tony or Nikki or one of the other lawyers in here to sue me. But for two, you're not helping us fully understand the gaps that we have in our services. So if we have 500 applications for hemp farming, and we find holes in our ability to deliver financing to hemp, that lets us understand that we need to do things to reach out to our constituents that want to do that. So always turn in an application, not just for your farm loan programs, but for any of the disaster programs. One thing that I do have to touch on here before you get to your question, there's a disease spreading throughout our buffalo industry right now. If you're experiencing loss in your buffalo herd from Mycoplasma bovis, notify your local office of the loss. It doesn't matter if it's on an ELAP application form or a livestock indemnity program application form, get that information to us. If you have to just call them and then follow up with an email defining your loss, there are requirements we have to meet about notification of loss, and we want to make sure that we're getting our arms around the scope of the problem as we work towards solutions. Here's got one more maybe. Sure, one more.
Good morning. My name is Al Thomas and I'm from Arizona. And I've been taking out loans from FSA for the past 20 years. I'm a small cow-calf producer. And the last time I went to the FSA office, asked if I would be able to get another loan. And I was told that I've met my limit of, I believe it was 9 years or 9 loans for a lifetime. I was just wondering if that's ever going to be changed, because all the loans that I've received through FSA has really helped my ranch operation. And especially right now with this severe drought that we're experiencing in the Southwest, I really think that should be changed to benefit us Native producers.
Yeah,
And the other question I have is, we're doing a lot of NRCS EQIP projects out from where I'm at. And we're advising some of our ranchers to take out EQIP or not FSA loans under EQIP projects, but they're being told that they have to have collateral up to 150%, which I really believe is outrageous. And I was just wondering if that's ever going to change, because I mean, with our land status being federal lands, we can't borrow against our lands. And I don't know where FSA came up with this rule, but to me, it's really outrageous. So I was just wondering if that's going to change too. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And thank you. And thank you for being a great customer for us. We need to be able to maintain that relationship so that we can help our producers go through these trying times based on their accumulation of equity on their own terms instead of having to wait for a federal program to help them. So remember we talked about the statutes. We're statutorily bound to enforce term limits on our loans. If Congress asks us, what can we do to better serve our customers? An answer that some producers give is get rid of those arbitrary statutory loan limits. Another aspect of our lending that isn't often highlighted, our farm ownership loans function at no cost to the taxpayer. They cover their own expense. Our farm operating loans do have an expense to the taxpayer because you're more inclined to have loss there. But I wonder if it's because of the length of the farm ownership loans and not the assets supporting it that we have that no cost to the taxpayer. In our CS, the 150% deal, man, that drives me up the wall. It literally says up to 150%. And we interpret that as we will take 150%. We're working to change that interpretation. Please keep turning those applications in. And when you run into problems, don't be bashful about elevating the conversation. It doesn't do any good to have an Indian at the head of the FSA and at the OGC if we're not talking about the things that are happening out there in Indian country. So please get in touch with me, Mr. Thomas, and let's work to resolve that. That's all the questions. All right. I want to thank you all. Please use that email address. I think if you want to Google it, my phone number is probably on the internet too. I want to hear from all of you what we can do better. I want you all to get on a county committee in your locality and help us deliver the programs out there in the communities. And I want to be able to stand here in 3 years and talk about all of the lessons that we learned and the solutions that we built together. So with that, I thank you for your time. Thanks again to the IAC. It's a pleasure to be here.